Can't let up now.
Darker!
Want darker?
Darker.
All right. All the rest of the poems are about suicide and dead babies, Dwayne.
Okay.
Dead ducks and bubblegum.
Dead ducks and bubblegum.
Sounds like Candyland to me.
This is for a friend I lost recently. It's LG for Josh, lest ye be judged. What was the last thought you had before you kicked the chair out from underneath you, gone to answer an unanswerable question? Did you wonder if anyone would understand our teenage adopted family or your young wife, or she would find you there, swinging back and forth just like that empty cradle did? She sat with your echo haunting the walls of that room you once shared. But Josh, wasn't it just yesterday when we were still young enough to unlearn ourselves? With outlaw songs cut through our window at 60 miles an hour, and I could almost mistake that feeling for peace, but in the silence, the bad habits always started speaking for themselves. I'm sorry. I wasn't there. I pulled the needle out of your arm, ripped the smoke back out of your lungs to bleach up underneath your skin for her. What was the last dream you had? Was it watching your daughter's eyes close one last time? The note you left us just said you were on your way to go be with her again. Josh, we are running out of heroes. They keep tucking secrets up underneath their chins and praying for sleep. I understand. Our hearts were always gallows, and some of us are built for hanging. I believe poetry was the moment between pressing the barrel to my temple and pulling the trigger. And even though I chose to live in that moment, I still wake up every morning to the taste of cold metal and a fear of gunpowder as a whiskey breath fogs the mirror with every apology. I am still not good enough to make. Josh, how could I blame you? I just miss you. I hope you got that last dream, the one where you watch her grow old in your arms like every father deserves to, where there is no sin stronger than that indelible love that was always a part of you. Josh, how did you spend that last breath? Is there a word caught on your tongue that was too full of fear to escape? When you closed your eyes one last time, and everything you had ever seen faded to black, it would look anything like forgiveness. I feel like being slightly less dark now. This is more for me than it is for you. This poem was based off a joke at the Woman of the World Poetry Slam qualifier at Rain City, where the host said every woman that performed that night needed to go write a love poem to themselves because holy fuck, guys, shit's getting too sad around here. And then I said, alternatively, I'll write a love poem dedicated to every woman in the slam. And then this happened. 8-part love poem. 1. You saw me aching for that familiar sound to kick back up in my veins, and 4 times, so you bought me a guitar. To remember those old cowboy lessons about how turning away can become a lifestyle if you're not careful. 2. Where if one does not know, one must remain silent. Where if one is silent, one must remain. Where if one remains, one must know. 3. Reputation spread like wildfire across this town that taught me how to love without trust. But I've seen you. I know you got the Amazon kicking steam up against your heart. The first time I tasted salt was in the parking lot of a Mormon church, and you know how it feels to go from pulpit to black leather strapped tight to turn the nighttime into an effigy for every lie we were ever told. 4. You also gave me a guitar. I'm beginning to worry that if this habit continues, these broken chords will pile into some obvious metaphor about how clumsy I've always been with heartstrings, or every life I've failed to save. 5. I never kept any of those old love letters. I always thought it was funny how they were more about the person who wrote them, how they were more about the return address than the person they were written for. I understand the irony in the ink. I would send you something beautiful. It's been getting harder and harder for me to find myself inside of anyone else's voice. 6. I love you like a southern accent or an inside joke. Sister Soldier, heaven has always been a gated community, and this is how we bring down war. Trade blood for napalm, splay my wrists open and watch those old debts go up in flames. I would beat down all of St. Peter's pearly walls for you just to show him what recovery is actually supposed to look like. 7. My first real love was a country song that died in a shootout. I still wake up coughing up dust most mornings, rolling and tumbling like a weed. I'm sorry, by the time you found me, I had become the song the ship sings as it sinks into the bottle. I've been getting good at holding my breath. But if you have time, I'd still buy it. If the world needs its real saints, start marching in. 8. Kiss me like an old wound you think might have a chance. Keep me like a secret you know it's gonna get out. You know, I get so bad sometimes. You know, lately, it's only been getting worse. How I shake so hard, I think these sheets might turn into ash, and all I'll have left is what is spilling through my fingers. But you were still there at the time the sunlight hit my wreckage. You placed your hands on the rapids, watched the sand turn back into glass, and held me. Like the kind of mistake you wouldn't have to regret anymore. I love beer. Do you guys like beer?
Yep.
I'm just buying time right now. I gotta find the next poem.
That dog is still not my best friend, and I have a problem with this. All right.
You got a butt scratch.
Noted. All right. This is... I now find this poem really funny because I wrote it when I was 21, which I'm now 23. I wrote so many things in this poem that ended up becoming truer than I wanted them to be in my real life 2 years later. This is 21 years of poetry cliches, a retrospective. The rib cage, where my mother held me for too long to believe I could be anything other than her baby boy. The hands, what I used to pick up everything when I was young, especially bad habits and worse people. Photographs, where the people I used to be come for the throat of who I am now, and sometimes I want them to take me, like vertigo, the urge to jump. Whiskey, the bed I should not have been in, that taught me Newton's third law, the bird cage, how I learned to say the things I meant and forgive those who hadn't learned yet, the collarbone, where my best friend and I tattooed a promise we spent years trying not to forget, but sometimes time does not move in the same direction for everyone, the razor blade. How I saw the blood rush from her forearms as I helped her rewrap the bandages for the second time. The part of her history I wished I could have unwritten then is a part of mine I wish I could unwrite now. The couch. I heard him fuck her in the next room as I read what would become the most important book of my entire life, The Phone Call, where I turned my back on her in order to save us both. The relapse. That last night we spent together, we always swore to keep a secret. The addiction, the pills that numbed an entire winter, how I held the steering wheel while Lucas did key bumps of coke on a drive that would end up sealing my destiny as a poet. The siren, how I couldn't stop his bad habits before the cops did. The bridge, where I explained my vertigo and realized it sounded like a threat. I don't know if it was meant to be then, but I do now. The tombstone, where I learned to hold myself accountable for my actions, how I saw my brother's life saved by the heart of a good woman and 3 beautiful children, a premonition I did not see coming. The other bridge, that first kiss that came right on time, the river where she told me I had never written a love poem, only a list of broken parts, the museum where Danger Clutch and the gunslinger met and became a king, the bar where I learned the only way to become a hero is to play their villain, the mountain where I learned to accept love without defense, the highway where I saw that everything had to be risked in order to become the man I had been claiming I was, the ocean, that sound that turned honor into a belief system regardless of whose pocket the devil was in at the stage, where I watched the kids betray my faith in them, my mistress abused for their pettiness and vendettas. I see the ugliness in my own past in them, how I hope they are lucky enough to regret every apology they've never made, in every life they could never save. I know I did. Okay, I promise. I only have one more poem about to accept. Alright. It's called Problematic. It's really short, too. She says if I've never tried, then I can't talk about it. So I try to keep quiet. Like I haven't earned all the mornings I wake up shaking and grasping for a life I never wanted, as the velocity of a spiral takes hold again and I'm too dizzy to go home tonight. What makes it an attempt? Is it mine to talk about the nights drinking myself blind, hoping I would never have to see again, when there was no one left to wash the blood off my fists wrapped in a ball on the side of the road, spilling life across the sidewalk, a cry for help too soft to be answered? Is it mine to talk about the ones I've lost this way? Or the survivor's guilt I feel? Or I use the ink to stay afloat while others drown in what they are unable to say? How many lives have been choked out by this kind of silence? How am I doing on time, Dwayne?
You got plenty of time left.
I don't know if I have plenty of poems left. How's my best? My best good?
That's excellent.
All right.
More beer.
No, I ran out of beer. All right. 15 minutes of fame. 1. Andy Warhol once said that in the future, everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. Some of us get 45. 2. Miley has a barber stool. Britney has a barber stool. Miley has a cell phone camera. Travolta has a dress. Gibson has an answering machine. And David Hasselhoff is a really messy eater. And it's our business to know these things. 3. Most of the global pop media is controlled by just a handful of corporations, yet for some reason, no one can name the men behind them. 4. When asked what they wanted out of their future, 40% of high school students could only reply, fame. 5. In a post-information boom culture, success is easy to come by if people can laugh at your failures, but it's almost impossible to achieve through talent alone. 6. Where are you going, kid? Are you too good for us now? We made you. You really think you're done owing us everything? 7. Dave Chappelle caught the first flight away from a $50 million contract, describing his stardom as a drug he would spend the rest of his life trying to recover from. 8. Parents work through the day and sleep through the night while their children only see happiness in the glitter of red carpet vixens and self-entitled movie badasses. 9. Don't show any confidence up there. That flood of eyes is too prone to imagining themselves underneath the stage lights. A cultivated persona is easily mistaken for an unshakable ego. Do you really think this has anything to do with me? The devil's greatest trick was convincing the world he had anything to do with its own damnation. 10. Aurora, Colorado, Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, all easily repeated because society needs an easy outcast to pin all of that ugliness to. 11. Celebrity sex tapes crowd the market. The darlings are all too willing to sacrifice integrity just to keep their names fresh in the mainstream. 12. Does any of this mean anything anymore? Remember, I wanted it to once. I remember if I ever shown anyone but myself power that one voice could have. 13. Cobain sleeps with a syringe in one arm and a shotgun in the other, while what's left of his misery pours out of the back of his skull, and the whole world wonders where those kinds of demons could have come from. 14.
Are you a president? Yeah, we live in Bend.
This is your last chance to really matter. You have failed at everything before this. They validate you through their applause, and they want the new beat. Poet, they want the new street. Poet, do you really think you have what it takes to satisfy that kind of indelible hunger to make them all love you? That's what you want, right? It's the only reason you're here. For them to love you. 15. January 17th, 1978, from the stage of the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco, California, after a movement too violent to endure had collapsed, Johnny Rotten spoke his last words as a Sex Pistol. Do you ever get the feeling that you've been cheated?